Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Cloud9 and TSM just finished up an absolute banger of a series. I mean, this was such a fun lock-in series to watch. It wasn't necessarily a banger because it was the most high-level play series of all time. There was definitely a big amount of mistakes for both teams in this series and really throughout all of the games. But that's to be expected. You know, it's still a preseason tournament. But it was so much fun because it was Cloud9 and TSM. A huge rivalry, two massive fan bases, a ton of viewership, people going back and forth, and really a ton of chaotic, really close games. That again, even though they weren't maybe the highest level games in the world, they were just super back and forth, super exciting and super fun. And overall, they're making this lock-in tournament a really big success so far, and getting us really hyped up for the games left to still be played. Hopefully tomorrow is just as fun. Hopefully the semifinals and everything and the rest of the tournament is great. But even so far, just in this series, you know, there's already a lot of people just asking for, you know, can we get a best of 5 between TSM and Cloud9, because it was just a ton of fun to watch. In this video today, we're going to be breaking down exactly what happened in the series and asking and answering a lot of the questions that people are asking right now, like you know, how much longer does Huni have on TSM? How much longer does Lost have on TSM? What's going on with Perks and Fudge? We'll be talking about all that stuff. But before we get into that, I just want to mention real quick, if you're not already subscribed, definitely click that subscribe button really quick. It's fast, it's free, it's easy. Helps you guys stay up to date on all my latest content. I'd appreciate it a ton. We're trying to run up those numbers as high as we can get them. 6,200 soon, hopefully. Drop a like if you did enjoy this video. If you like my channel, like my content, or just want to support me at all, because it does help me out immensely with that YouTube algorithm. With that being said, here we go. Getting right into this, breaking down this series. I mean, obviously Cloud9 ends up winning this series 2-1, and we take a look at kind of these first games. TSM actually starts out with a win, and they start out with a different draft. People were so excited to not see Gnar coming out in the top lane. You know, we got Huni on Gragas. We do have the Galio, which it seems like TSM has been losing to Galio comps a lot, like the Camille Galio stuff happening pretty often to them. We get Galio with a lot of engage on TSM. Gragas is a good option for the Galio to come over the top, and Nidalee Galio can ult on top of as well. Also, Spica Nidalee, you know, is super good. We got to see some nice 2v1 plays between Spica and Huni in the top lane, which was awesome. I was kind of wondering how good exactly PoE would be on the Lucian. It's not really something that I think I've seen him play much of, but it was surprisingly decent. It was good. And then, you know, just more some not good stuff for Cloud9. Perks did not have a very good game on Twisted Fate. Fudge on the Aatrox left a lot to be desired as well. But Zven and Blabber were still really good. Vulcan was fine, but TSM was able to pull off a win to start off the series, and this is something a lot of people were not expecting. TSM had looked pretty terrible leading into this game, leading into this series. Their drafts have been bad, and Cloud9, even though they didn't look great during the group stage, they were slowly ramping up, and it seemed like they were getting better and better. So losing a game to TSM was definitely worrying, but, you know, it's a best of 3. You have time to adapt. You have time to make changes, but man, at this point, people are asking a lot of questions about Fudge. They really needed him to step it up, turn it on, and we're just still kind of waiting for that first big pop-off game from Perks, because yeah, it just hadn't really happened yet at this point. But you know, so far so good for TSM. We get into game 2, obviously where Cloud9 would need to bounce back, and man, did they. We got to see Huni Gangplank, which was kind of exciting. I was really looking forward to seeing Power of Evil on that Twisted Fate as well, because I think Twisted Fate is just such a strong champion in the meta right now that TSM needs to be able to play that and have comps with it, and they hadn't really showed that yet. And this one did not go very well. Huni on the Gangplank obviously going 0-5. Sword Art 0-5 on the Thresh. Lost 2-2, but man, that's pretty misleading because he did not do much in this game. Speak of Nidalee again, but it just didn't work out. They were able to pick up first blood onto Perks pretty early on with a nice Twisted Fate into Nidalee play, which I like that Spica seems to be interacting with all of his lanes really well, setting up some synergy with mid, setting up some synergy with top. That's working out great, but man, this was the Zven and Vulcan show. 10-0-3 on the Kai'Sa is just insane. Blabber with a 2-1-15. Fudge, this probably was his best game in the LCS so far, going 3-1-7. He was pretty useful, and it just kind of looked like both top laners really needed Gragas at this point. And then that obviously took us to the big game 3, where you know, Cloud9 took a really commanding lead early on, but this led us into this Baron steal play, which was absolutely insane. As you can see, where Cloud9 has like this Baron setup, it's at like 1k HP, and PoE steals it with, I believe, just an Azir auto attack from one of the soldiers, which was just really crazy. You know, what's his name? Blabber. I can't remember his name. Blabber gets knocked away the Kindred by the Gragas ult, so he's not able to get his ult off. But eventually Cloud9 would still be able, they had a huge lead, even though TSM got the Baron, they weren't really able to do anything with it, and then Cloud9 gets us to this fight where, even though Blabber gets picked off early by Lost, it's just Cloud9 is too strong, too fed at this point with Infernal Soul, and it was just really, really easy to kind of just end the game from here. TSM trying to run into their own base, Fudge is running people down, and it was just, it was an easy game for Cloud9. After losing that game 1, things got way easier. We saw Zven pulling out the Sivir that we saw Reckless pulling out in the LEC. He goes 605 on it. You know, all the Sivers so far so good for them, and they were able to close the series out in game 3 with taking down TSM 2-1. So it was really, really interesting. But when we take a look at that, we see this was Fudge's, you know, showing out party. He goes 7-0-5 on the Camille, but this comp was so good. The Camille Galio, Alistar, another great option for the Galio. It seems like TSM, for whatever reason, TSM was red side in all these games. They never wanted blue. But also, TSM keeps kind of losing to the same comps. Like, Camille Galio is very, very strong right now. It's given TSM a ton of issues. But honestly, the biggest story of this whole series and what people are going to be asking after this series comes here, where, you know, C9 tweets this out, GG at Zven. You see the 454 CS on the Sivir. Obviously, Sivir's a power farming monster. Sivir's always going to have insane numbers and stuff. But the 283 CS on Jhin, the insane CS discrepancy, that doesn't tell you the whole story, but a big story from this whole series is, you know, the TSM Lost meme also. But the fact that Lost looked like the worst player in the whole series, and it really wasn't even close. Even in TSM's win, Lost really did nothing and really just looks like a huge liability. And obviously, TSM in the offseason signed Cody's son because they weren't sure if Lost was necessarily going to be the guy. Because again, we had seen him in the LCS previously, and you know, he wasn't exactly amazing. But then he started dominating Academy League. They thought, you know, maybe he's going to be able to be the next great AD carry for us. Maybe Sword Art will be able to train him up. And again, just a preseason tournament, just a couple games in the season. But man, a lot of people are starting to ask questions of when is Cody's son going to be subbed in, and people were asking the same stuff about Huni at the beginning, and I think Huni had a better series than he had last week. I think Huni's going to be fine overall. He's not amazing, but you know, there is still potential. Hopefully he'll be able to ramp up. I don't think it's fair to ask those questions about Haunter yet, but man, I think it's becoming more and more fair to start asking for Cody's son, because not only is Lost just an absolute liability for TSM at this point, he hasn't really showed any promise or any potential of doing anything. That doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but you know, I'm not really seeing it yet. He's also kind of weighing down Sword Art, obviously being his bot lane partner, where Sword Art is supposed to be this huge playmaker, this guy they spent all the money on, and I feel like if Cody's son was able to come in and just stabilize the AD carry position, not even be amazing, but just not be bad, just be solid, as we know Cody's son can be. He can be bad sometimes too, but he has the ability to be solid, maybe more so solid than Lost has looked so far. It could enable Sword Art to hopefully start making some more plays, enable him to get around the map more often and not completely always be in deficits and always kind of just being in a weird position where his AD carry isn't really doing him any favors. We have seen Cody's son playing a little bit in the Academy League so far. He had a really, really good Xayah game, a 3-0-8. Haunter popped off too, a 7-2-2 against Evil Geniuses Academy. They did lose to C9 Academy in their first game of the season. Cody's son 1-4-5, but I think he actually did a little bit better than the scoreline would suggest. It seems like, you know, he is seeming to be above Academy level, kind of proving that to people. Haunter has been as well, and maybe Lost is proving, maybe he's playing like LCS level, but if TSM wants to be a top 3 team, if they want to be making it to Worlds, because Cloud9 honestly wasn't even playing that great in the series as a team. Now, they are playing against Zven and Vulcan, and Zven and Vulcan have looked great so far to start the season. They might be the best bot lane in the LCS. Obviously, Tactical and Corey JJ would have something to say about that, but they're looking really, really nasty. Zven is, I said this in another video, playing maybe the best that he's ever played in North America, which is, you know, that's impressive, and he's looked great. His scores were insane. His damage is insane. He's just playing so he's not dying, but he's still being super effective. It's a tough matchup for sure, but again, if this is where TSM wants to get, they need to be able to match up against other great bot lanes, because North America has a ton of great bot lanes right now. Honestly, between 100 Thieves and Team Liquid and Cloud9, all the top teams have that. And if you have a serious liability AD carry, it's going to be exposed. It's going to be an issue. And yes, they were trying to hide him on Jhin, who is this, you know, uber busted AD carry right now, who can also, you don't even have to position well, you can stand super far away and be still useful with your team. And Lost was just still not able to do stuff. He's getting randomly caught out. It's really, really weird. And yes, he was very, very dominant in the Academy scene, but right now we're seeing that there's a big difference between Academy and the LCS with all of these players. Fudge, a guy who is really highly touted coming out of the Academy scene. People expected to come into the LCS and dominate. he has looked bad so far. Palafox, same story with him. He was dominant last year. He's not looking so great so far. Diamond, I think he looks like one of the worst players in the LCS right now, and he was dominating Academy last year, and the same story with Lost. These guys who were dominating the Academy last year, for whatever reason, whether Academy was weak, or they're just, it's going to take time to adjust, or they need more time to develop and synergize, whatever it be, the guys who are coming up from Academy are not looking good so far, and it just largely proves that there is levels to this, that the LCS is a whole different beast in the Academy scene, and also different players are successful for different reasons. Just because you were able to succeed in the Academy scene or make yourself look good or play on a good team or whatever does not necessarily mean that you're going to be able to step up to the big leagues. Now, again, I'm not completely writing off any of these players. Palafox, Diamond, Fudge, Lost. These guys could still continue to develop over the course of the season, but logic would tell you that all four of them are not going to make it. Like, that's just how prospects work. You take you take a bunch of chances on prospects, and some of them will work out. Not every guy who does well or looks good in the Academy scene is going to be able to take that step up to the LCS. If it was that easy, then scouting would be way more perfect, and we'd always pick out the best players, and we'd always know who's going to be the best players in the future. There's so many variables that go into it. But after this series, it was an absolute banger of a series, and so many people are tweeting and posting that all these games are going to come down to who was worse between Lost and Fudge, because it was really like that's how the games were going. Like, if Fudge played terrible, Cloud9 was going to lose. Now, TSM has two kind of big question marks in Hooney, who, he looked a little bit more solid in this series, but then Lost was a big question mark for them, and it was really just who's going to int back and forth. And Fudge came out in Game 3 and had his 7-0 carry game on Camille, and Lost just never popped off like that, and that's why Cloud9 ended up being able to take this series in the end. Now, again, banger of a series. Super, super fun to watch. We were on the edge of our seats the whole time. I'm glad TSM was at least able to take a game. I'm glad they at least showed some signs of life. But in the end, yes, Cloud9 looked very good. Their bot lane looks nasty. Blabber looks nasty. Fudge and Persh are still leaving a lot to be desired, because people have just high expectation for those guys, and they know they can be better, and they hope they can be better and get to those levels. But it was good that Cloud9 won. But again, I don't think Cloud9 is necessarily looking like the second best team in the LCS. I think 100 Thieves is going to give them a very, very good series. I think Evil Geniuses would give them a good series again, obviously. And then, there's always Team Liquid as kind of the raid boss waiting at the end. So yes, it was big that Cloud9 was able to bounce back from that early loss. It was big that Fudge was able to finally have a big game in the LCS. But man, Cloud9 and TSM definitely look like they still have a whole lot of just trouble and issues to fix. And honestly, if I'm TSM, people are going to complain about it, whatever. I would at least be considering Cody Sun pretty soon, because again, these regular season games are going to matter. You're going to want to start winning those regular season games once the LCS starts up, because your record lasts the whole season. But also, you want to start building up synergy. You want to start building up what you believe to be your best roster. And man, so far I am just not seeing it with Lost. I'm willing to give Hooney some more time, because I know he has the potential and the skill, and I don't really think Haunter was not good last year, but I do think Cody Sun could be a significant upgrade over Lost. And then honestly, TSM looked a lot better today than they did look last week. They finally had some proactivity, finally had some life. They showed some of what this team could possibly be, but I think Lost is just too big of a liability at this point. If he doesn't start making big strides, then he's going to find himself back in the Academy team very, very soon. But that is pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment down below. What do you think about this whole situation? Do you think TSM needs to start swapping up their roster, or do you think these things just take time and they need to start building up some synergy? My problem with that is that a whole bunch of teams change their roster and stuff, so it's not really the best excuse to use, but hey, whatever you guys think, I'd love to hear it. Subscribe to update on my latest YouTube content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one, but until then, peace!